it's a fundamental movement program. So obviously India is going to Australia in a couple of months' time, and they're very skilled players. One of the reasons why they're so skilled is when they started at a very young age, they learned how to bat and bowl and field and move. And so what Ready Steady Go Kids is all about is using sport to really have children enjoy the movement fundamentals. So that is balance, coordination, flexibility, agility and so on. And so that's why I think it's a wonderful program for all schools, but for all children. And so, again, I think if we went back into our own childhood, when we enjoyed something, we loved doing it and wanted to continue doing it. We had a passion for doing it. And so that's what we're hoping to encourage too, so that as children have better movement skills, they can enjoy sport more, and therefore maybe that means that they'll continue on into their adult life. Whether they're a good sportsman or not doesn't matter, but they enjoy the fact of physical activity and movement.
In a couple of months, India will be touring Australia.
Yes.
Border-Gavaskar trophy. India will be playing the series in Australia. So how do you look at the match series, test match series?
How do we see the series going? Well, look, I think it's obviously a 5-test series, starting in Perth, then going to Adelaide, which is a day-night game, then Brisbane, then the Boxing Day test, and then Sydney. Now, that's all happening in the space of about 7 weeks, 5 tests in 7 weeks. And I was just having a look at all the ages of both teams. And I think the Australian team or squad as it's made up might have 1 or 2 players who are under 30. India might have 3 or 4. So it's almost a battle of the veterans. And not that that's such a bad thing, but a 5-test series in a short period of time in a hot Australian summer will test everybody, physically as well as mentally. And so I think the team that is strongest in both of those aspects will possibly be the side that manages to come through as victors.
If we talk about the bowling side of Indian team, one of the best players bowling like Border-Gavaskar. So how you look at the gaming of Bumrah is one of playing in Australia. So will the pitch of Australia will help the Bumrah in playing?
Oh, definitely. Look, I think there's no secret of the fact that Australian pitches have become a little bit more bowler-friendly in the last period of time. But to play in Perth as the first test match, and then the third test match in Brisbane and Adelaide under lights, there are a lot of things in favour of the quicker bowlers. And Bumrah is absolutely world class. I've always enjoyed watching him, and what I enjoy about him from a young person's point of view, when we're talking about RSGK, he doesn't have an extensively long run-up. You know, he generates his pace from his gather and his action at the crease, and I think that's a good thing, so that you're not taxing the body too much as a fast bowler. But you know, Australia's got an incredible bowling line. That's what's made them a powerful test side, with Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, backed up by Lyons, and then you add in Cameron Green on top of that, and possibly a Mitch Marsh if they fit both into the side. So I think that's an incredibly strong bowling lineup. Bumrah heads the Indian bowling lineup, Shami possibly, Siraj possibly, maybe Thakur, I'm not sure. And then, you know, you look at Kuldeep, Jadeja, just again a very, very well-balanced bowling lineup. But pace and bounce is always how you want to play in Australia from a bowling perspective, and pace and bounce from a batting perspective is something that you've got to be able to cope with.
Jai Shah has been elected as the new ICC chairman. How are you looking?
Yes, well, congratulations to he, and obviously from a BCCI's point of view, wonderful to have that person in that role. I think what cricket really needs at the moment is good decision making at that International Cricket Council level. I think there's been a lot of talk about should we get rid of one-day cricket because T20 cricket's the new format on the block. Around the world we've got lots of T20 leagues, T10, hundreds, and so there are lots of enticements to take quality players away from playing for your country and playing for a club side. I don't think that's healthy for the game. I think it should always be the reverse. It should always be a privilege to play for your country first, and then hopefully that's been brought about because you've played well for your club and your state side or your provincial side. So hopefully with Joe Shah and the administration of ICC Cricket, I think it's really important then that we find room for the three formats, because I think it's too difficult and not good for the quality of the game to have only T20 cricket and Test cricket. I think there's too big a jump between, because again, when you think about it, we're just talking about fast bowlers, right? So they only bowl 4 overs and then they break. But in Test cricket, you're going to ask them to bowl, in Australia possibly, in a Test match, you're going to ask them to bowl maybe 20 overs an innings, 40 overs in the heat. 4 overs per game doesn't necessarily prepare you for that. So we need an intervening game. We need a game that's the longer version of the short game or the shorter version of the long game, so that players can transition both ways.
If you can share your thoughts on the emerging player of Australian player, if you can share. One of the emerging player also.
Yeah, look, I think there are a number of players in Australia, just like India. I think cricket's relatively strong. But what's happened, I think, with the Australian cricket team at the moment is, as I said before, there's only a couple of them that are under 30. So there have been a lot of younger players who have been knocking on the door for some time, but haven't been able to find a way in, simply because that Test side is so strong. So possibly in the next 6 to 12 months after the India series, I will expect there to be quite a deal of turnover in the Australian side, and that's when you begin to see who are these new players to emerge.